The Pertemps. This has got to be an easy one to solve, isn't it, Will? We've only got 4 qualifiers from, 4 horses could qualify from each of the heats now. It's a win and you're in as long as you're rated high enough. It's a mess of a race as far as I'm concerned. This is one like you talked about with Presenting Percy years ago when he came and won it. You look at the weight and they were even the talk and everything, and they still knew he was going to win, and they got stuck in, didn't they? And then I feel like it's one of these races, Will. Don't know if you're of a similar ilk, but the plotty conspiracy type horses are potentially, you can sometimes find them early on and you might get a few value losers from it, but then you do just seem to get a lot of winners that are just completing our afterthoughts, and they've tried something, it all doesn't go well, and then they come and win it after. Because I tipped up Monmoral to win an Arkle a few years ago and he won the Pertemps last year. That's the type of horse I think that can end up going in here. So the Wall Park is worth mentioning for the fact that he's in the Stairs Hurdle as well. He's bought by JP. You'd think that he'd be going to the Stairs. All the talk is that he's going to the Stairs, but it would be very notable if they decided to come here instead, I would have thought, just for the fact that they think he can run it to a close number to Tiapu. Then they might be thinking, well, actually, he might be able to do enough in here to go and win it. Because you don't need to have bundles in hand, I wouldn't say, on there. You just need to be primed, peaked, and in decent form coming into it. So he'll be interesting, but he's one of 3 for JP, isn't he? Win some, lose some. Jericho de Repene, that was, I want to say, apparently eye-catching. He did stay on at the end, didn't he? But he looked like he was well beat halfway through the race as well. So he must have gone, not that they have the anti-post books up, but if there was in-running betting on the Pertemps in that race, he would have gone 1,000 at some point, wouldn't he? And now he's 7-1 at the front of the market, having started as a novice chaser. He's got form, isn't he, to suggest that he could be well handicapped, but he's also got form to suggest that he's not a horse you'd want to be betting to win a race of this nature. So there's got to be something at a bit of a price further down. As much as I poo-poo Jericho de Repene, the one that I half like and I have had an interest on was Shanna Bob, because they put the cheap pieces on for his qualifier. That worked lovely for him. The 2 times over fences, I bet him first time up. And for all he looked like he was going to make, like he was every inch a chaser while he was hurdling, he just looked nothing like a chaser when he went over it first time. And I wonder whether he's maybe like I wouldn't necessarily say green, but maybe he's just not the most intelligent horse. But again, I don't want to be harsh to him. I just mean there might be something in him. When he was babyish and green, when he won that Grade 2 Bristol Novices Hurdle at Cheltenham, where he beat Destroy the Evidence. So even on that form, like, you know that he's potentially got to be a 140s horse. He looked babyish and green, didn't he? But I actually start to wonder now, maybe he is just that type of horse. Maybe he's just, I don't know, a bit like fumbly or any of that sort of stuff. But the cheap pieces seemed to straighten him up in that Pertemps qualifier. Then they had to quickly run him in the Plumpton race, I think it was, or wherever it was. They ran him over 2 mile 5 just because he needed a 5th run to get into this race because the new rules have changed. So you can definitely ignore that. The fact they took the cheap pieces back off and he still ran okay was like a slight positive in there. I think he's just the right type of horse that you'd look at and say he is a well-handicapped horse and maybe this will work. But as I said, with horses like Monmoral that go and win this one, and even though in hindsight Presenting Percy was well-handicapped, he seemingly wasn't well-handicapped. It doesn't always go to the horse in this race that you look at and think they've got stones in hand, does it? It just goes to the horse that is going to win the race, which I know sounds really obvious, but I think I can make a bit of a case for Shanna Bob. It is another one of those that I would very rarely get heavily involved in. I've backed many a value loser in this, Will. I've backed a few each way as well that have never even played, so probably not the best person to judge on this one. Have you got a bit more of a bullish opinion in here, or are you of a similar vein that it's a hard one?
Yeah, I wouldn't be bullish, you know. Like we said, with a number of these races, when we get nearer the time, confirmed runners, confirmed ground, etc., confirmed stable form. But 2 that were on my radar definitely are Doddy the Great, who was second in the qualifier at Haydock last weekend, who has been, I mean, this season has just been a complete write-off, to be fair to him. He debuted over fences at Kempton, didn't really take to them. Pulled up then back over hurdles at Kempton at Christmas time when not done too many favours by the starter and was left at the start. Pulled up at Ascot behind Alta Belly. That was a bit of a blip. Don't know what went wrong there. But he ran a massive race in cheap pieces behind One Big Bang last time out. Travelled so well in those cheap pieces. Was very, very weak in the market. So the run wasn't really expected, which I always like when the horse does that and there's a bit to work on. And they show up really nicely and at a big price. So he was definitely of interest. He's got form behind Go Dante in a 2 mile handicap hurdle back here at Cheltenham as well. So he's got track form. Nicky Henson has a decent old record in this race, actually, with horses that he's run fairly recently to get qualified. Remember, I think it was Call the Cops one a couple of years ago, having won Doncaster qualifier. Jericho de Repene would be in that particular bag as well. You've definitely got to note his run at Exeter, I'd suggest. And the other one was Ollie Murphy's horse, Long Draw. We haven't seen him for 2.5 months, but the last run of a busy autumn period, he qualified by finishing 4th in the qualifier at Wincanton. I imagine he's been freshened up. He's got good course form at Cheltenham. He won a good 3-mile handicap here, beating Gal Road. I think he's going to be a horse that will be produced fresh and ready on the day. So he could be one that plenty of people have forgotten about, but gradually might start to come back into people's realms of thinking.
Oh, good man, Will. I'm glad you said that as well, because another friend of mine messaged me yesterday making a case saying that I've got to have at least a holding bet on Long Draw. And then I saw Ollie Murphy being interviewed yesterday talking about his Cheltenham chances, and he didn't mention the horse in there. Wonder whether his mark might be on the low side to get him in. And I wonder whether that quick turnaround, I don't know whether because they ran him in the qualifier, I wonder if they tried to win one to get him in or to get his mark moved. But he's definitely of interest. But don't know, it might be Ollie Murphy-esque to run him at Aintree, wouldn't it? But again, we mentioned this on some of the other races as well. There are horses that are being mentioned in here that even if they don't go in at Cheltenham, not that we'll claim the wins forevermore, but these are spring festival type horses that we probably have been aimed at something. So Long Draw's definitely got to have a bit of a squeak. If he turns up here, I think he'd be quite a fancy, wouldn't he? Don't know how much I trust Ollie Murphy to try to Cheltenham Festival winner at the moment, though. That'd be my only thing. So maybe if he does turn into Aintree, it'd be a better option.